shy society. I wake up in the morning and the first thing that I see is a bunch of cranky people on a full bus with no seats, repeatedly undermining what's in common misery. Strangers remain blinded to existence and their history. What's the recipe? Well, taxes and a slave wage, harassment from the debt they face. Family happenings may take place, wait negate the hate. Defend you'll never ever hurt brothers and sisters. Not a damn thing from them you have learned. The pages turn, the future replicates the past. A building burns, fire revenge is pretty fast. War dance, it's a ritual in society. Live in shy land, this is what I describe to be. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. You will always be a part of me. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. You will always be a part of me. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. You will always be a part of me. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. You will always be a part of me. Working one late afternoon, my head gets fatter with thoughts of you. Along with matters when bills are due. Does it even matter how many pills I use? Refuse to deal with psych treatment. I like to think I'm quite different.
Alright everyone, this is the Existentialists. I hope you can hear me. Edwin Robles, shout out to you. Thank you for being a viewer, a supporter, and a guest. We hope to have you back and other people. If you're just checking in, this is the Existentialists. I'm Tony B. I just want to make sure that my volume is doing a better job than the last live video that I went on. That is me rapping in the video. That's Shy Society by Tony B, produced by, rest in peace, Louis Vizzy. You can check out Louis Vizzy on SoundCloud, some of his great work, and even myself, I have some of my work on SoundCloud, Tony B for Prez. I am a rapper. Quit rapping at me. But I just want to make sure that we're here. If there's volume problems, if you can't hear me, please inform me. We are having some glitches because of the rain. But I do want to begin our segment to cry about the, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that I have everything settled. Cry about the fair tax. In Illinois, we lost. It was a 54% vote on no for fair tax. Illinois residents have spoken across the state, and they voted no. This was a week ago. The results rolled in all the way through Wednesday, Thursday. It was pretty much a done deal. 45%, on the other hand, they voted yes on the fair tax. And so that's a victory that I want to focus on at the slightest. While we did lose, there's something rejoiceful about it. But let's focus a little bit on that loss. One urgent thing that I think people want to recognize is, and it's valuable. I listened to people that said vote no on the fair tax. I think their insight isn't incorrect in terms of why they chose not to. I think the reasons, the propaganda they were sold was wrong. I don't believe all that propaganda that was pushed by right-wingers. I had conversations that retirement income would be a target if fair tax had passed. Well, let's just say this now. The legislature, the Illinois legislature, the governor of Illinois, a Democrat, they can attack retirement income. There is a pension exemption clause in the Constitution. Those kind of moves can be done without a fair tax amendment. So let's watch now. Let's see. I don't think the Democrats will do it in Illinois. The Illinois Democrats won't do it. They won't go after retirement. But they might. They might just. Pension reform is a whole nother subject. But they're still not addressing pension reform. And a lot of people want them to. So here's the insight that I believe the naysayers of a fair tax. Here's where I think they get some kudos. They don't trust Illinois politicians. They don't trust the Democratic Party in Illinois. Now, voters do trust them to an extent of, legislating in a way that they hope to be represented. But there is a disdain about fiscal responsibility, right? Handling the budget in Illinois. We have a large deficit in Illinois. people can point to the number of reasons why it's a bad thing. But for people they don't trust the Illinois legislature, that is clear. 54% plus of the Illinois population, that's what they're saying. This is what I'm taking out of it. So what do we do? What do we do about that? I think it's clear that there needs to be some maneuvering. I've seen some posts about that Illinois is a red state. Illinois is merely a blue state because Cook County, the Chicagoland area, is just blue. It's dominated blue. And so that Cook County voters, Chicagoland voters, they pretty much push forward a Democratic agenda, whereas opposed to the rest of the state is largely going red. Now this is true and not true, because you have to be clear. While many people in Illinois, the 54% voted no, Joe Biden was carried by Cook County voters and Chicagoland area for the most part. Landmass isn't representative of the state. Let's just make that clear. That's why when you see a largely red map in the country, the land doesn't vote. That doesn't mean just because a bigger state is red or a bigger amount of land is red, suddenly that's a majority of the country. That's not how this works. Illinois is still a blue state, but this is what I fear and I theorize. If the Democrats are so desperate to avoid touching pension reform, doing anything about pension reform, they're going to have to look for revenue to, fund education, healthcare, infrastructure, social programs. If they're going to try to help their populations, their constituents, they're going to want to try to appease them, but at the same time, budget cuts, measures of austerity, meaning services that the population relies on, is on the table at this point. And so the Democrats are going to have a difficult time. While I think the state will keep leaning left, it's going to be a hard sell for the Democrats when they have to make some hard choices. So what's going to happen? That might convince voters once again to be dissuaded to come out to vote for another Democratic governor, notably J.B. Pritzker if he keeps running. He probably will. And we might get something like another Rauner. And what happens when a Rauner takes over? Well, Rauner had a stalemate with Speaker of the House Michael Madigan. So the Republican vote might come out again once they see Democrats making those hard decisions. Of course, the fair tax wasn't the only option out of the hole that the state is in. There's other options. People have recommended the state go bankrupt. But I want to touch on something very important. And I want to make sure that while we did lose, there's a small gain to all of this. I'm from Cicero, Illinois, and for many viewers of mine, you're near the Illinois area. You might be from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You might be from different areas near the Midwest states. For those of you that we've interacted with, those of you that we gained as followers, we thank you. We love the fact you subscribe to us on the Existentialists on YouTube and you like us on Facebook. We're looking for more viewership. We're looking to keep building so we can inform people. But for Cicero Politics, this is really cool. This is why I'm happy. I want to go into fair tax about some options on the table that the state can go forward with. After I address this, Team Larry Dominick loses. This is in the Cicero Machine Politics. It's very, very, very exciting for me to talk about these type of things. I have to be frank with you. I love it. I'm going to pull up this screen right now. What? Whoa. Huh. Interesting. My apologies. I want to make sure that we have everything working here. Okay, good. All right. So I'm gonna pull up this window right now, and I want to show you some of the results from Cicero. So this is Larry Dominick. That's President Larry Dominick of the township of Cicero. Town of Cicero. It is a Cook County suburb right outside of Chicago. Larry Dominick, president for about 16 years now. Very impressive. And he's running again, so I believe unopposed. No one's opposing him in the election, so he's going to go for a strong 20 years. There were talks he was going to retire, but this guy holding on to a very powerful political machine. And that political machine is known as the Cicero Voters Alliance, the Larry Dominick team. Surrounding him in that picture, he is in the center, and of course that is the trustees and the other board of the township of Cicero. They're the power players, they're the elected officials, they make big decisions. So for instance, in Cicero, voters actually, they wanted a minimum wage. They wanted the Cook County minimum wage ordinance to be applied to the Cicero Township. These people, including President Larry Dominick, they did not listen to that referendum put on the Cicero ballot. They decided, no, never mind. For me, they do not have the best interests of the working class in Cicero. And now there's a good chance to gain momentum against their powerful machine and hopefully take them down. So yes, that's Larry Dominick, and I'm going to show you why I'm calling out a loss against his team. Even though they're very powerful, they have a very strong hand. Look, they're so strong. The Democrats, because this is a independent party, they claim independence, which they are, because they're so dependent on the community. They do network with other politicians, Democrats mostly, but they have the remaining Republican vote in the Cicero Township. So Cicero is largely Democratic. The CVA has pulled a brilliant machine to back some Democratic power plays while also still remaining Republican. So I want to show you how they lost this election based on the fair tax of Illinois. So let's just make sure we pull up that screen. Okay, here we are. This is the Cook County Clerk of Illinois. And in this screen, what you'll see is when it came to the fair tax. This is the fair tax, the proposed amendment to the Illinois Constitution. Registered voters. Look how many registered voters there are. Oh wait, this might not be it. Ballots cast. Yeah, this was Illinois. There are about 1,669,000 voters, but only less than 1 million showed up, so 976. Look at these numbers. Look at that. Oh, just so you can see in the bottom. Let's zoom in a little. Let's just do a little zoomy zoom. So remember, you can look this up. This public information. You can find this information yourself. And no, there is no proof of any fraudulent voting. But then again, all mail-in votes are supposed to be illegal, according to the Trumpists and the cult following and whatnot. But these are public records. You can look it up yourself. We won in Cicero 70% of the vote. That's 70%. That is amazing. Amazing. That was only so many votes, but you know, I'm actually very, very perplexed by this. 16,000 people voted for. I had those numbers wrong. I'm sorry. The registered voters, I guess, was of Illinois. You know, I'm dumb. I'm not as smart as people play me out to be. But so only 16,000 voters came out, and it looks like 11,548 voted yes in Cicero. So Cicero had a victory. I was part of a campaign in Cicero that was pushing for the fair tax. We're an independent political organization called Rizoma Collective. My views do not reflect those views of Rizoma Collective. However, we're pretty aligned, and there are disagreements, but we agreed on the fair tax and we pushed it. And look, we beat Cicero because the Cicero Voters Alliance, they were promoting to vote no, and they're a powerful machine. They got less than half of what we got. They got 29% of the vote to agree with them. 4,000 Cicero residents, 4,700 Cicero residents still said no, and that's a problem. Right? Those are voters that we could still reach out to and persuade. I was at their polls. I was at early polls. I was at the election day polls. I was there canvassing, electioneering, and I got into some conversations. I upset some people. I don't get upset. Politics is sport for me. It is very serious, so I can't get upset during certain political competitions because people's lives are on the line. But as you can see here, 70%. And we can even look at their numbers even more closely. So that was, right here, as you can see on top. Oh, Illinois voted no, right? This is what I was telling you about earlier. Illinois voted no. These are all the votes they got. Meanwhile, the yes votes. It's fairly close, but we got our asses kicked, everyone. I want to stay on the Cicero thing though. This is per precinct in Cicero. Now remember, the Cicero machine is very powerful. Rizoma Collective and other grassroots orgs on the ground, right? Those that aren't really politically involved, but they are. They say they're not. The nonprofits. They are politically involved because they also have political interests. They have interests that are the community's interests. But look at this beautiful chart. So this is the shame of all of it. You have, let's say in precinct 1, right? You have 1,603 voters. Oh, come on. Not even half showed up to vote. That's why it shows that voters in Illinois, they don't trust politicians. They don't trust them to really do what they're going to say. And it's understandable. Politicians say what they have to do to gain power. But even though we didn't get the best turnout in that precinct, which I believe we could have if COVID-19 pandemic wasn't going on, if we had a stronger ground game, right? You always got to do self-reflection. What could have the canvassers, the electioneers, what could we have done better? Right? I'm in the political game. I always have to self-reflect. But we gained, out of those 700, 485 votes compared to 194. Precinct 2, 244 compared to 71. I'm really not good at highlighting. Okay. 315 to 114. 383, 116. Look at this. All the way down. It's a shame how many show up to vote and don't show up. So you have in precinct 5, that's probably one of the best turnouts so far, if I'm doing the math correctly. Right, precinct 5, 700 showed up to vote. That's a strong precinct. Those people turn out more so far. And still, we gained more than half of those votes. This is a strong one. Precinct 6, still won. Look at that, 377. And it goes on. Cicero voters, while they align with the Cicero machine, because the Cicero machine can get out its voters. These voters come out during presidential elections mostly. They don't attend to local elections when it comes to school boards, a board on the library, the park districts, sometimes state representative races. It varies time to time. It's really about outreach. how do you expand the scope of the voter base? And Cicero has done a good job to both reach out, expand, but also repress the voter base, right? They're not interested in young voters. Now, they do their due diligence in getting some, and because I've seen some young people at the polls in Cicero, and they're volunteering for the Cicero Voters Alliance, Team Larry Dominick. And I ask them when they're canvassing, handing out their little placards, like, do you believe anything that you're giving out? And they say no. They're just doing it to help out. It's just well connected. If you're connected to these families and these workers of the town, and you get along, and you have some shared values in building community, it's about who you know. But these people don't believe in the machine that has run their lives for 16 years and going to continue even further. So now there's an independent political organization. There are grassroots on the ground. Community support is building and challenging the narrative of the Cicero Voters Alliance. Now this one is actually Precinct 13. This is probably the closest one. Precinct 13. Now you can always find out what precinct you live in. You can just type in Cicero Precinct, find my Cicero Precinct, search your address. It'll show you what precinct, but there's a lot of work to be done. But it's so cool to know that even in Cicero Precinct 13, as close as it was, we still gained victory. And it keeps going. And it keeps going. Yes, remember, this is the yes column. All right there. No's. Yes. So Cicero, this is what we end up getting at the end of the day. Of course, 34,000 voters. That's actual registered voters. I was confusing it with the Illinois registration. That's how many came out. We did a bad job in trying to get people out to vote. Maybe COVID-19 was it, but we need to get these voters. People are staying home for good reason. Yes, 11,548. No, 4,401. Sorry, 4,741. We won in Cicero. I'm very happy for those numbers. As much as I feel like a bum because we lost. Trust me, losing, you don't take it with a grain of salt. This is just so cool. I'm sorry. I have to geek out about these things. Another notable thing about Cicero, the Cicero Voters Alliance, they actually endorsed Willie Wilson of the Willie Wilson Party. He was initially an independent, but look at him. Look at Willie Wilson. He gained lots more votes in Cicero thanks to Cicero Voters Alliance. They endorsed Willie Wilson. Dr. Willie Wilson is a Trump supporter. And he was backed by the Cicero Voters Alliance, who endorses, right? So Cicero Voter Alliance, strong political machine in Cicero, Illinois. They have a large constituency of undocumented immigrants. And they decide to endorse a person who, and I get this disparaging to call undocumented people illegals. And some people culturally haven't caught up yet. I had a friend, Frank, he explained that because he was helping Willie. Okay, let's just throw away that he made a disparaging remark. But you're going to make a remark about illegals, the undocumented population, and then you're going to get a backing of someone in Cicero, a power player, and you're going to try to represent a community that you don't even want to adequately fund because there's too many illegals in those communities. How many children are undocumented, they attend these public schools. You don't think those kids should have adequate funding to their schools. Now, I'm mincing words here. I might be taking him out of context. But he gained 2,000 votes, right? But he lost. But that shows the Cicero Voters Alliance, he was their Trump card. They didn't openly show that they endorsed Trump, But that was their way of saying they endorsed Trump through Willie Wilson, because Willie Wilson was a supporter. So it's very interesting. And even though out of the 2,000, you could see Willie Wilson gets 2,000 Cicero votes, Trump gets 3,000. You can even look at the results per precinct. Oh wait, this isn't. Wait. That's Berwyn. I want to look at the Cicero results, right? Let's see where Willie Wilson is in Cicero. Look at that. Willie Wilson gained over the Republican nominee in the first precinct. He gained heavily. Now, Durbin took over every precinct in Cicero. So the Cicero machine couldn't convince its own voters that Willie Wilson was the way to go. And that's impressive, though, that they got 2,000 votes for Willie Wilson. I want to show you one last thing. This is the definition of quid pro quo. Quid pro quo meaning you scratch my back, I scratch your back. That is a political term that politicians engage with private industry, donors, each other, right? So if President Donald Trump needed something to be done for the country, but he needed a vote from, let's say, Dick Durbin in Illinois, that won't happen. But let's say President Trump needed something. He did something for the country because he got Dick Durbin to vote for him in the Senate. And then therefore the Senator Dick Durbin would get something from President Trump. But it also works when it comes to donors. And here we have Dr. Willie Wilson donating 4,000 masks to Cicero. And he was there when they were delivering these masks out in the open. Now, mind you, this pandemic had started back in March. And finally, Cicero decided to activate resources in May. Now, I was also part of a failed campaign that tried to get signatures to tell Cicero, President Larry Dominick, that they need to step up their COVID-19 relief action. Now, they weren't doing much. Yeah, they didn't announce any plan. No sanitation material, no masks, no COVID-19 testing sites were announced. The team Larry Dominick, the Dominick administration had stated in a Cicero Independent article, there was an interview, and Maria Puños, Arias Puños, I might be misconstruing her name, but she said that Cicero was looking for free money. They wanted to find free testing. They didn't want to pay for testing because it wasn't worth spending the public dollar. It wasn't fair to voters and taxpayers using the public dollar to find testing. They were always trying to find testing for free. It's a fair argument, however, as serious as Cicero was number 3 on the highest rated infected areas in the Cook County suburbs and Chicago. The top 2 were Chicago's neighborhoods. Number 3 was Cicero. So they waited. Grocery stores kept running like usual. But Dr. Willie Wilson comes in to save the day. These were donations. And look, so the quid pro quo is, okay, I donate these masks, and the Cicero Voters Alliance endorses me. Team Larry Dominick endorses me. But I'm coming in to get a political favor. So thank you, Dr. Willie Wilson, for helping us with masks. But no thank you for trying to gain a political favor of a powerful machine that myself and others are pushing up against. That's quid pro quo for you. What a coincidence. He gives the township masks, and all of a sudden they endorse him. Ignore the little notifications on the side. I must address those things. So let's see where we are right now. Because for me, those were epic victories. And it shows that the Team Larry Dominick, the Cicero Voters Alliance, I really don't want to trust them. It upsets me that this kind of behavior is happening. And it's blatant. It's out there. Let me get to some of here we are. I'll make sure I don't miss anything. Who are we talking to? Hey, Gerardo Nava, thanks for checking in. Appreciate you. Yes, Boo Larry. At least not yet. The process to run for mayor is in December. People can still run. This is true. You can collect signatures starting now all the way to December. I have to check that date, but you have to get a number of signatures. The political machine in Cicero will challenge those signatures, but someone can run against him, and there's enough to run against him on. If you are wise in your strategy, trust me, I would run. But politics involves lots of funding, massive support, and it's just so many logistics to deal with. You don't just throw your hat in the race. Now, there are those politicians who like to have all this money, or political figures, businessmen. They have all this money, and they just want to say, you know what, I'm going to run. I'm going to match my dollar versus their dollar. And for the most part, they make a good run for it. But their interest is simply trying to gain the population to support them. They're not trying to build community, build grassroots. You see these well-funded people come in, they're highly successful, highly respected. They come in, and then when they lose, they don't stick around to build a coalition. They're just your friendly neighbor at that point. So you can have that person, but it really matters about building those grassroots, really building power with your neighbors and your community members, showing a common interest. You can run on the fact that the Larry Dominick administration has shut down the $13 minimum wage ordinance in Cook County. They opted out. What about sick leave? The referendum for sick leave, Cicero voters wanted it. What has Team Larry Dominick done? COVID-19 pandemic. You waited till May to finally get masks because someone was donating them to you, and you were only taking these masks to support them again in a Senate race against Senator Richard Durbin. You waited to get testing sites because you didn't want to pay. Even though, let's be honest, there was no Hobie parade, there was no Cinco de Mayo parade, 4th of July, I don't remember any fireworks going off. That's a lot of money. And I'm going to pull into this. I'm going to be talking about this for a while. I'm going to pull into these numbers. But if you can show that in a year, the Hobie parade, the Cinco de Mayo parade, and 4th of July fireworks, any 4th of July event, where'd that money go? You didn't use it towards COVID-19. Okay, another one, tickets, street cleaning. Okay, you know what? I think it's an environmental argument. I think that has validity. But then you have to purchase a Cicero sticker, and that Cicero sticker was extended all the way to the end of this summer. The Illinois registration sticker, however, that was originally extended to the end of the summer. It was like end of July. I think Cicero and the state of Illinois, I think they both followed this end of July, end of August scenario. So it was a 3-month extension or 2-month extension for Cicero. I believe you're supposed to buy a Cicero sticker by June. They extended it to the end of the summer. Illinois registration sticker got extended into the winter. And for Cicero, if you don't buy it by the time it got extended, you're paying double the amount. $50. If you don't pay the $50, you have to pay $100. At the very least, they could have kept it at $50, because guess what? That sticker still expires in June. It doesn't last an entire year anymore. Nope, no relief for that. So it's very, very, I think there's key things to run up against Larry Dominick and his administration. They failed to keep Cicero residents safe. And, they're not totally responsible, right? Residents themselves have to do the most. But you are talking about representing a working class community. and I feel you failed, just like your idol Donald Trump. Huh. And let's see. Shout out to Gerardo Nava. He has another comment. It was rough to encourage people to vote, but it's fair that people were busy and weren't sure of their options. Possibly wasn't convinced to vote in the election. Luis, one of our guests on the show, Alder Rafael. Simultaneously, I'm in class via Zoom, but in a nutshell, what do you mean that CVA taking a loss? Yes. So you just tuned in, Luis. I'll pull it up again. You can rewind a little bit, just a bit backwards. We're talking about in Cicero. I'll pull up the window really quick. In Cicero, we ended up seeing a loss from the Cicero Voters Alliance because they were advocating. Team Larry Dominick was telling voters to vote no on the fair tax. So this is the fair tax amendment, right? Fair tax amendment. Illinois obviously lost in total, but Cicero vote only 4,741 voters in Cicero were convinced by the Larry Dominick administration to vote. I can't go up any further. And then that's 11,548. They voted yes. So that's why I say Team Larry Dominick took a loss. Even though Illinois lost in total, the grassroots struggles and the IPO Rizoma Collective, the community, they knew where their interests lie, and they didn't match the interests of the Cicero Voters Alliance. Very, very notable to mention. I want people to recognize that. So that's what I mean. And let's see. Lewis, if we could push for O'Connor and Berwin, we can build a coalition against Larry and the CVA. Yeah, so that's Berwin politics. And yeah, Berwin is the neighboring community next to Cicero. I agree. I think Berwin is a very it's far more advanced when it comes to progressive agendas, and the mayor currently Lavero in Berwyn. I think we should challenge the DCOB as well. There's work that can be done in collaboration with DCOB. They are the political machine there, but there's going to be a number of individuals running again in their wards. Berwyn wards, right? In Cicero, there's precincts. In Berwyn, there's wards. You know, they're a city. So Berwyn is its own city. It's its own thing. But I think what Lewis is saying is correct. There's coalition building. And the IPO I'm part of, Rizoma Collective, they are in collaboration with both Berwyn and Cicero. So that's true. There should be a coalition built. But it's about building. We have to build. We can't just come in with some person that we want to back and they want to run and give their hat in the race, take a shot, and as soon as they lose, they vanish. We don't need that. We need people that are willing to lose and stay, do the dirty work, do the politics. Voting is not the only political power people have. This needs to be understood clearly. Don't believe the narrative that voting is your only sacred right. And they don't say that. But politicians only come to grab your attention when it comes to voting. What about the building, the organizational building? That's what we need to do in Cicero and Berwyn. I encourage you to visit Rizoma Collective. Come and bring your viewpoints. Come and disagree. For the most part, we are going to push a progressive agenda. But we need to hear our community members, and there's so many people that didn't vote that I think we need to reach out to them. We need to do our due diligence in expanding the scope of the electorate. So I want to go on to one more thing before. Remember, if you are watching this, thank you so much. Very humble. I am in the works of setting up to create content videos, meaning videos that will be exclusively viewable on YouTube. These live streams are an opportunity for me to engage the viewership live, and of course engage in conversation and invite people of the regular kin, right? I talked to Lewis last week. I'm hoping to talk to anarchists of the Wham radio. It's going to be interesting conversation about anarchism and the state pretty much destroying our natural liberties. So join us in philosophical conversations, and of course, join as I try to inform you on political matters. I'm very, very enthused to be talking about politics with people and going forward. Gerardo has a comment. It's tough to build a working relationship with possible progressives in Berwyn and expect them to help in Cicero. It's possible there may be some possible pushback from Cicero residents of outsiders, not from Cicero organized in the town. You know, that definitely is. It's just interesting that, let's just say, Berwyn is unwelcoming of Cicero participants, a Cicero collaborative trying to influence their politics. I can see why someone would have an issue with that. But when it comes to commerce, I think Berwyn is fine with taking Cicero dollars left and right. So we have a mutual interest. Economically, we feed into the Berwyn economy. Maybe Berwyn does it to Cicero. Maybe it's a vice versa. Berwyn is booming. Riverside is right next to its side. I think it's more so that Cicero feeds into the Berwyn economy. But what do I know? I'm not an expertise in that. But building matters. And when it comes to running more high stakes elections, you're talking about state representatives, state senators, justices. School districts are across suburban areas. So we might want to consider what that looks like, especially when the high school district is important and we share that in common. Morton district, Mustang all the way, right? But let's finish off this. I appreciate you guys viewing. Make sure you share, subscribe to us on YouTube, and of course like us on Facebook. Join the conversation. This is the Existentialists. I'm Tony B. I want to cover one last thing with you, if you would let me, and that is, of course, the fair tax fail. There's an opportunity here, and that opportunity revolves around potential pension reform and another push for a fair tax. Now, fair tax itself, fair, by some technicality, fair means everyone pays the same. But it's not fairness we're asking for about same, right? We don't want same. Because the graduated tax proposal, I always forget the name of it. It was Senate bill. It was a Senate bill in the Illinois legislature that passed, and Governor Pritzker signed it into law in 2019. That created those brackets I explained last time in the other live video. Those brackets helped tax the highest earners. It was those that made it was about $800,000 and more dollars. Every dollar after that $800,000, you would get taxed at 7.99%. It was an 8% tax. Meanwhile, everyone below it was paying 5% or less. And less was like about 4.90%. So that's not fair, right? If you really think about that, technically, it's not fair. So maybe fair wasn't the word. Fair was just trying to say that those that make the most should pay their fair share. That is kind of that agenda, that propaganda that people push. Because saying something like equity tax, people are always misconstrue the word equity, or they use it to damn a political agenda, a political campaign. Equity. You know, we can't have equal outcome, everyone. Well, equity is about making sure that those that are better off, that are best off, can make sure that we lift the tides of those struggling. The families across this state can have a better life. They can have better education for their children, a better retirement plan. Right? They could be surrounded by sound infrastructure, access to great health care. That equity can come down in the form of an investment into our working families, in our middle class families. We missed our chance for that kind of equity with this fair tax, in my opinion. There's going to be some hardships that are coming on the way. So maybe fair tax wasn't the right message. In my opinion, and I have plenty of those, we need to narrate this in terms of fighting money and politics. No, this fair tax is not addressing campaign finance reform. Campaign finance reform is certain things that, even John McCain had passed in his day. Democrats and Republicans alike. Even Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, he said in the Amy Coney Barrett hearing, even he reached across the aisle and he told one of the Democratic senators, I think we have some common ground about campaign finance reform, and we need to address it. I think we need to address money in politics. Meanwhile, they nominate Amy Coney Barrett, and they support justices that are fine with money in politics. That's the biggest loss for Amy Coney Barrett. I'm not trying to damn her character, but money in politics, corporate power. The Supreme Court has been leaning more towards the Supreme Court has been leaning more towards corporations, corporate power over worker rights, labor rights. That has been happening for these couple decades now. The Supreme Court is becoming more pro-corporate and more against the working class. And Amy Coney Barrett is just another bit of sprinkle on top of that. But in my opinion, fair tax, the propaganda that needs to be backed with it, is challenging the money in politics. Meaning the donor class needs to be put on notice. And the working class and the middle class need to be informed that money in politics is a very serious issue. They have instant access, and that's not fair. They have more political power than the working class voter, than the middle class voter. These high earners, these donor class individuals, that access allows them to help legislatures write bills, write things into law that go against your potential interest. And it saves them lots of money with tax loopholes. Deregulating the markets, deregulating commerce. Money in politics. That's how I would narrate it. If you want ultimate access and you want to get involved in our elections in a way where you can outmatch our political power, because that's what it is. Their political power is unmatched. I wanna play easy on that, right? Because I think people power can really challenge the donor class. But let's be honest, our small donations, we have to persuade more people. We need more people power to match the money power that the donor class has. And that's something I feel that we can get on board and we can try to narrate. But so what comes with these kind of ideas is Arizona, actually. Well, Illinois failed. I want to show you. I read this in Forbes, in Illinois Policy. Apparently, Arizona did the opposite. It's impressive. Where am I? No. Yes. Here it is. That's Forbes. Here it is. Nope, that's not it. Boom, right there. Arizona voters approve massive tax hike on high earners. Could your state be next? And here's it in detail. So in Arizona, voters approved a 3.5 tax surcharge on high-income taxpayers on top of the current top rate of 4.5%, bringing its new top rate to 8%. The estimated $1 billion in annual revenue raised via the Invest in Ed initiative is earmarked for teacher and staff salaries, career and technical programs, and teachers college. Individuals with income above $250,000. This is what Illinois tried to do. They tried to get anyone that made over $250,000. Those are the people that we're gonna see their taxes raised. Now I don't know about you. I don't know many people that make over $250,000. But in Arizona, let's see the 4.5 rate. So that's lower than Illinois. 4.5 rate applies to income above. See, look at that. The vote was 53% in favor. See, we only had 45% in favor in Illinois. In Arizona, they got 53% in favor, 47% against the proposal. Proposition 208. We had 54%. So it's reverse. It's reverse in Arizona. The law would impose 3.5% tax surcharge on taxable annual income over $250,000 for single persons and $500,000 for those who file jointly. Now, but here's an important thing about this that I want to mention. The estimated $1 billion in annual revenue raised via the Invest in Ed initiative is earmarked for teacher and staff salaries, career and technical programs, and teachers college. So, I want to address this real quick because this is too important to miss. Someone can help me out and fact check me. But the Senate bill that Governor Pritzker passed in Illinois in 2019 that would create these brackets. Because I spoke with State Representative Edgar Gonzalez of the 21st District in Illinois. And I asked him, because Illinois Policy, their publication, they were stating the entire election, vote no for fair tax because nothing guarantees these politicians are going to dedicate these funds towards education, healthcare, infrastructure, dealing with the debt. Right? Nothing was guaranteed that the revenue gained from Fair Tax Illinois would actually help us or invest or be something that we really need, right? But Arizona, even because their constitution is different, but this 3.5% tax surcharge, if Illinois could change its constitution to get rid of a flat tax, they earmarked the revenue, the annual revenue for teacher and staff salaries, career and technical programs, and teachers college. See, these are the type of things that Democrats need to do. The representative, Edgar Gonzalez, he told me there's nothing to guarantee that money's going to go to those things. People are going to flood the legislature in Springfield. They're going to flood in. They're going to lobby on their own behalf for their own interests. So all that revenue was up for grabs in some part. Of course, Democrats always have their own agenda. What political machine doesn't? So they know how much money they want to allocate to what. They kind of have an idea of how to balance their budget and how to spend the money they want. But they're always going to have all this additional revenue. If you're going to gain the public trust, do something like this Invest in Ed initiative and use that in your messaging. Don't just put this blanket statement that people are going to save. They're going to 97% of Illinoisans are going to see their taxes cut. It should have been a tax cut Illinois. That should have been a message. Tax cut Illinois will raise revenue. That's kind of it's a misconstrued message, but Arizona had an initiative for this money, and Arizonans, if that's what they're called, they supported it. 53% of them, and there might be more because that was only 98% of the voting or at least those that voted on election day, the reported votes. So, Arizona, congratulations. You gave Biden a victory, unless Trump comes in and challenges it and takes it away. But they also did what Illinois failed to do. Now, Illinois was a baby step behind because they needed to amend the Constitution. They needed to get rid of the flat tax. But there was no messaging, from what I recollect, on saying that the raised revenue would directly go to something that people need, towards education, towards infrastructure, towards healthcare, towards jobs, a job initiative. I don't know. But there was no messaging. I think that's very important to note of why the Illinois fair tax failed, why it lost, and why we need to push back. Because there's going to be a second time around. There has to be. But it needs to be rephrased. We need to get those voters that did not come out. And we need to persuade those that voted against. People were misinformed, in my opinion. Another interesting thing that Arizona did, and I'll end it here. We're back at that. Congratulations, Arizona. You did what Illinois could not. This will be I want to bring in an expert on this matter. Oops. And it involves pension protection clause. Truly the will of the people. This is on Forbes again. Too much advertising. I don't want to. They're not paying me. All right, let's see what we got here. Well, apparently I am about to use up all my articles. Isn't it fun to use up your articles on things you don't subscribe to? Subscribe to us, though. All videos are free. So, membership. This is a pension clause in the Illinois Constitution. Membership in any pension or retirement system of the state, any union of local government, school district, or any agency or instrument, there shall be enforceable contractual relation. The benefits which shall not be diminished or impaired. That was in December 1970. 57% of voters, they liked this. They were binding future generations to promise the legislators could increase pension benefits at any point, which they did repeatedly, but could never reduce them, not even with respect to pensions not yet accrued, regardless of how expensive those pensions would become. We need to talk more about these pensions, because the interesting thing is that Arizona actually approved a constitutional amendment, changes to unearned future pension benefits. This was in 2018, and they did so again back in 2016. So maybe that's the direction that the state of Illinois needs to go. Arizona showed they can go after the donor class, the wealthiest of people in Arizona. Illinois failed to do that. But Arizona was also bold enough to amend pension law. Now, this is worrisome to some people. People don't want their pensions attacked. But something might need to be done. And I'm looking forward to discussing this with someone that knows most about pensions and why or why not the pension issue is something that voters should focus on. So, yes, I just want to leave it there that Illinois lost, but Arizona won, right? And so, if we could learn something from all of this, I say we need to be harder on our rhetoric and our messaging. I'm pushing for a fair tax. We definitely need to make sure we talk about committing the revenue to funding something concrete and not just leaving it in the air. So yes, that is my video for today. I'm very grateful for anyone that was a viewer. Please invite yourself to come have a conversation with me. We could set something up. Stay tuned for a potential discussion with anarchists. and Marlboro Man of Wham Radio. We'll be hoping to talk about anarchy and the state involvement in attacking personal liberties. But please, once again, make sure to subscribe to the Existentialists on YouTube, like us on Facebook, share our videos, join us in conversation. Thank you, everyone. I am Tony B, and I am out.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. Welcome to Shy Society. I wake up in the morning and the first thing that I see is a bunch of cranky people on a full bus with no seats, repeatedly undermining what's in common misery. Strangers remain blinded to existence and their history. What's the recipe? Well, taxes and a slave wage, harassment from the debt they face. Family happenings may take place, wait, negate the hate. Defend you'll never ever hurt brothers and sisters. Not a damn thing from them you have learned. The pages turn, the future replicates the past.